Hey, coaches, welcome to Championship Culture. Got the legendary Mike Leach with us today. And, Coach, I know how busy you are right now. So I'm not going to dilly-dally around. We're going to get straight to the questions. And I really appreciate you doing this and being on here with us. Question number one, even though this is funny because everyone on my channel knows who you are, but can you give a 1-minute elevator introduction of yourself?
I'm Mike Leach. I'm the head football coach at Mississippi State and formerly at, I've been at a lot of schools, but most recently Washington State last year.
Awesome. And I like I said, when I was texting you, I don't know how big of a culture guy you are, but I know everywhere you've been successful. So you got a lot of, a lot of information and knowledge that is going to help a lot of high school guys. So our second question is, and culture is such a buzzword now, but what is your definition of culture?
I just think that is kind of the fiber of your team and your group. Everybody's like in a group. Sometimes, different settings, you're in different groups, but with regard to football, and the football group, and we say, football time's football time, which means that, full focus and attention on football. And then the culture there is in the tighter you can integrate everybody as far as being about the same philosophy, being about the same work ethic, doing your very best in everything that you do, and understanding that if you continue to do that and push that envelope, that you'll elevate the people around you. I mean, I think that, it starts with, first of all, how you're going to go about things, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, or meetings, or lifting, or running, any of it. And then, but then it's got to be the commitment of everybody behind the goals and what you're about, and understanding, that it's about what you can do together.
Awesome. All right. So the third question is, what are the three best things you do to build culture in your program? So just kind of some nuts and bolts type things. What do you do to help build that culture and bring those kids together?
Well, I think that coaching wise, I mean, initially they got to get the message from the coaches. But if you get, key players, especially at all the positions, converted to the message, then, what they talk about when you're not around, when they're amongst their fellow teammates, I think that's what's strongest is, when they really buy in and they elevate that message. But we try to compete in everything we do, and sometimes, just make up a reason to compete at it. I mean, just compete for the sake of competing. And I think that's very important. It's like on the Last Dance movie, they asked Michael Jordan, they said, he says, I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competition problem. He says, I like to compete in everything I do, because he'd do everything from pitch pennies in the locker room or whatever. And then, and just love to compete. And then I think that, of course, rubbed off on his team, and you need as many people as you can that truly love to compete. And so I think it starts there. And then from, once you get people trying really hard, and then you want to have a specific way to do things, and you don't need 10 different ways. You need one precise way so that it synchronizes everybody. And from there, I think you really emphasize do your job. Be the best at doing your job. And whether you like your job or not, if you're the best at doing your job, then, you'll elevate within the context of your job, and maybe then you elevate to another job and continue to elevate. But it's got to be this constant pursuit of doing your job. And in order to do that effectively, be the most excited to play. Be the most excited to play, and know that everything that you do affects your team. And if your culture means something to you, then you don't want to let your teammates down, and you understand that you're an important part of that, even if you're in our case, whether you're a walk-on, whether you're a third-team guy, whether you have a little role in special teams, or whether you're some All-American offensive lineman or quarterback or corner or linebacker, doesn't matter.
When you're selling this do your job philosophy, does that start like during recruiting, or do you wait till you get them in your team meetings before you really start kind of preaching that message of do your job?
I think it's kind of constant. I mean, because if it really is a core part of your culture, then it becomes constant with you and your coaches, and you're consciously or unconsciously, you're talking about it all the time, probably with your family, your wife, everybody, because it never really leaves you. And then, we have another saying around here, you're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. And so I think coaches need to be just as accountable as the players. I mean, if you don't like the way your players are playing, then you have to coach them better, coach them different, coach them more precise. I mean, but coaches and players with regard to results and achievement, they've got to both have to understand that they're wired together, that, players play as well as you coach, and coaches as well as they play, vice versa,
Awesome. All right, here's a great one. I know coaches are going to want to hear this. Question number 4, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first got started?
Well, I think your base of knowledge has to constantly grow. I think you have to constantly be curious. I think that it's always a mistake to think you've got it all figured out. And I don't know who first said it, but John Wooden used to say, it's what you know, it's what you learn after you know everything that counts. And so always be learning. There's never an excuse to not to continue to be learning. And I think that's critical. And then I think that if you have that attitude, then your players and your other coaches will. And then I think that accountability for sure. And I was always pretty big on accountability. But then some things you got to be patient with too. I mean, there's a certain amount of just sort of rat turd problems that you need to just outlast and address the elephant turd problems.
That's pretty dang good. All right, last one, and last one is for high school guys. I know guys, air raid Colt guys, groupie guys always want to contact you. What's the best way for coaches, high school coaches, to contact you where they're not driving you crazy and breaking, recruiting rules and all that? Are you a Twitter guy? Is there a Twitter handle they can get you at? What's the best way for high school coaches to contact you?
Well, my Twitter's not a great way to contact me because that thing will just absorb you in. I have Twitter, and I got, I'm more of a retweeter than I really am a tweet guy. But I think that the best way is to email Dave Emmerich here at the office, and then that's probably the best way. Twitter, I mean, first of all, I don't know if I know how to find that on Twitter. I mean, my capabilities on technology are extremely limited. And so I can't promise I can find them. And then, but I think, obviously come to our clinics, which we're not having any this year, or come to our camps. But then the other thing is, I've got a number of, aides and assistants here. But if you get the questions to our football ops guy, Dave Emmerich, he'll get them to me.
All right, Dave Emmerich is your football ops guy, okay? And I'll look that up on the website and get that information.
I'll tell you another. The best one would be if you could find an email for Drew Hollingshead, if that's on there. Drew Hollingshead's the guy I'm talking to all the time.
Drew Hollingshead. Okay, I'll look that up and put it on the notes for this thing. I appreciate that. Last one. I'm going to give my best Leach story, and then I got this last thing, and we'll be done. My best one, number one, when I was a GA, you were the O coordinator at Valdosta State, and you were always very kind to me and very welcoming, and I always appreciated that. There was one time in the off season. Remember Hal would have you guys come out like on a Friday and kind of give a pep talk. Do you remember when that was going on with the team competitions?
Yeah, I think I do. I don't remember what I said ever, but we used to have super games for sure.
Right. Well, you came out. It was your time, and you came out, and you were talking about a Clint Eastwood movie. And when you first started, this was the first time I saw the power of Leach. Was when you first started, no one was paying attention. They were grab-assing and talking to each other, and they weren't really paying attention. And as you started in this, and you were talking in your low voice like you like to do, and as you got into this story, you weren't 5 minutes into it, and you had captured every player, every GA, every coach out there were just hanging on every word of this story that you were giving, and it had a very motivational ending to it. But that always just, I always remember that when you started the talk, no one was paying attention. And in 5 minutes, every person out there was hanging on every word you said. And I always called that the power of Leach. That's the first time I ever saw what you could do with a group of guys and how you could get them all heading in the right direction. And I know you've been, you've had a great run, been successful everywhere you've been, and you're going to do a great job there at Mississippi State. And I'm excited for you once we all get through this COVID thing. Our last one, it just.
What was the story?
It was.
You remember the story?
You started out, you were talking about Clint Eastwood movies and you were talking about, he always smoked a little cigarette. And you weren't sure if it was a cigarette or if it was a cigar. And, you were just going on. And like I said, no one was, they were grab assing. And then, you started ratcheting in on your motivational talk. And it was just amazing. I was standing at the back behind everybody. We probably had, heck, back then, what we have, 80, 90, 100 kids out there. And, I mean, it was just magical to see how you just reeled them in. And it went from grab-assing and talking and whispering to everyone glued on this Clint Eastwood story. And then how you took the Clint Eastwood story and turned it into how you win championships and how you put the work in and how you, and it was a classic motivational story, but the magic was just how you pulled everyone into your story when at the beginning, no one was paying attention. And that's, as a young GA standing in the back watching, that was magical to me. That's something I always remember was, the way you pulled the guys in and got their attention and I think that's, obviously that's what you've done your whole career is you've gotten kids to believe and you got them all marching in the same direction.
Well, that's nice of you to say. I wish I could remember the story. I'm just glad anybody was listening. But the one great Clint Eastwood line is on The Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood says, what scares a man is what he knows about himself. So, make sure you're prepared because what scares people is what they know about themselves. If you're not prepared, you're going to be scared.
Well, I use it with my kids all the time, the fact that just the opposite of I'm always confident when I know we've had a great week of practice, when I know that we've earned it, then I'm always confident going into the game and trying to get them to understand that, that confidence is born from, the work that we put in and us elevating ourselves to, we can't guarantee we're going to win it, but we can guarantee that we're going to deserve to win it. So I always use that one. I mean, that's something I believe in a lot. Last one, it said, the question is, do you have anything you want to promote? But obviously you want to promote Mississippi State. Is there anything you want to say about this upcoming year and your new position?
Well, I mean, we're excited about Mississippi State. Everybody keep your eyes glued to Mississippi State games when they let us play, when we get on TV. And then I did write a sports book on my path into coaching, which is called Swing Your Sword. You can still get it on Amazon, and at one time it made it on the New York Times bestseller list. And so basically it's on kind of how I found my way here.
Well, I think all true air raid guys have that Swing Your Sword is one of the books they have in their bookshelf, and if they don't have it, they need to run out and get it while we still got some time to read before the season starts. But I've talked to so many guys that have mentioned that book, and obviously you're one of the cult leaders, and you got a lot of people that are pulling for you, and know you're going to do great at your new spot. And man, I sure do appreciate you coming on and doing this, buddy.
Well, thanks so much for having me on, and look forward to doing it again sometime.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks. Good luck to you. Give my best to the family.
Thank you.
All right.